This is my 2000 Toyota Celica GT with a 1.8 liter. I use this to commute to work every day, and it has a little oil leak on the bottom. I'm pretty sure it's a bad seal on the oil pan. So this video, I'm going to show you how you do this repair in front of your driveway or garage just with some basic tools. Make sure your car is on jack stands. Mine's on ramps, and along with 2 additional jacks supporting it. Let's take a closer look. You can see there's a scrape mark on the bottom of the oil pan. This probably happened when my struts, when they were all shot. Every time I hit a speed bump or a pothole, they would bottom out. I didn't realize my suspension was bad, so going with a speed bump around like 15 to 20 miles per hour, I think that's what caused the oil pan to hit the speed bump and causing the seal to break. Let's go ahead and drain the oil and remove the filter. Here's another look. You can see the oil is caked onto the oil pan. I knew about this leak a long time ago, but I procrastinated about fixing it. So I've been driving it for a year to 2. I do add oil and then when it's getting low. So now finally got sick and tired adding oil. Decided to go and fix the problem. At first it looked kind of intimidating, but replacing the oil pan and put a new gasket on there, it's not really that hard. Go ahead and remove this plastic dust cover, exposing the flywheel, and also you'll see 2 additional bolts right there. Go and loosen them up. These are all 10mm bolts. You will need a 10mm wrench to get you these 2 bolts right here. To speed things up, I went ahead and used my impact driver to remove all these bolts here, all the one I can get to. So the best time to fix the oil pan problem is when you're doing oil change. This way you can go and remove the oil. Once the job's complete, you fill it up with new oil. I thought I could get to the oil pan without removing some of the plastic cover, but I think it is a good idea to go ahead and remove some of the plastic rivets to open the plastic cover up, and you don't have to take them off. Just go ahead and push them to the side once they open up. This will allow you to have access to the whole oil pan, to all the nuts and bolts and everything. And also when you put everything back, the plastic won't be in the way. I couldn't find my rubber mallet, so I'm using a heavy hammer along with a piece of block. So what I'm doing here, I place the wooden block onto the oil pan and using the hammer striking the bore. I'm hitting different spot. The vibration itself will separate the oil pan from the engine block. Just keep working at it. You don't have to hit it real hard. You could tell the oil pan starts to break off from the engine block because it'll make a different sound, and try to wiggle it. Sometimes you can see it move a little bit. Now you can use a putty knife and stick between the oil pan and the engine block and just work it and just wiggle it, and the oil pan will separate from the engine block easily. Go ahead and empty the remainder of the oil inside the oil pan. The next step, go ahead and use a razor blade and remove all the old gasket from the oil pan. All the gasket material that fell inside the pan, clean them out. You don't have to do this part, but I went ahead and used some brake cleaner and cleaned the inside of the oil pan. I'm spraying down the contact surface with brake cleaners to make sure there's no oil, so when I put the silicone sealant on it, it would stick. Same goes for the engine block side. Go ahead and remove any gasket material and remove all the oil residue from the contact surface area. Let me show you what I did wrong so this way you don't make the same mistake. I put one layer of silicone on the oil pan already. Now I'm laying the gasket. This is a cork gasket. I'm laying on top of the sealant. I'm thinking to myself, hey, this way I know it won't leak because I have the cork gasket along with silicone on the top and the bottom to hold it together. What could go wrong? I got the gasket and the silicone to put everything back together, and there's no way, this is ever gonna leak again. I spent $25 plus tax on the gasket and the black RTV seal. Now I went ahead and put the oil pan back in there so I can bolt it down. Once I get all the bolts secured, I can go and tighten them down. Just do it lightly and do the crisscross pattern to make sure the gasket and the oil pan is evenly seated onto the bottom of the engine block. Since I'm using the cork gasket, I don't know the torque spec, so I gently tighten all the bolts evenly, and this is what happened. The cork gasket started to ooze out. I believe having too much glue in that area probably causing the gasket to move. And now this gasket is totally destroyed. I can't use it anymore, and I just wasted $25. According to the instruction, before you can put oil and you use the car, you gotta allow 24 hours for it to dry. I went to the Toyota dealership parts store and picked up this silicone glue, which is designed for Toyota's motor. It only takes about half an hour to an hour before you can add oil to it. This is way better than trying to use the gasket. And this product is made by Toyota. When you put it on there, now you can properly torque the bolts, and the product won't fail you. And I'm trying to save money from the beginning, but to think of it, I actually spend more money. In my mind, I already think about the dealership price is going to be higher than what I can get out there, so I never bother to call them. But if I have done so at the beginning, I wouldn't have to go through this problem and buying gasket and sealant, try to fix it and do it incorrectly. So I could have done the job faster and done it correctly the first time if I have gotten the silicone glue from the dealership. And for some of you might say, I could have used the black RTV, the Permatex, and just put around the oil pan and probably do just as good as a job as the Toyota silicone. And you're probably right. Since this is my commuter car, I just don't want it to leak, and that's why I try to overdo something using the gasket and the sealant. That's all. Okay, I got the oil pan back on and go and secure all those bolts in there. I will tighten those bolts up and using the crisscross pattern to make sure everything is evenly tightened. Then I'll come back and using a torque wrench, and I'll do the same thing using the crisscross pattern, and I need to get every one of those bolts to either 6.7 foot-pound or about 80 inch-pound. So all the bolts are all tightened up, and you can see the little seepage on the silicone, and that's what you want. And the night before, I got it tightened up, and I didn't put any oil in it. I just kind of left it to dry overnight because it got dark. So now, since everything is dried, I'm gonna go ahead and put oil in it. When I first started up, the engine does sound a little loud, probably because the engine is bone dry and it'll take a few seconds for the oil to cycle through the whole system. The engine did quiet down a little later on. I don't see any leak, everything looks fine. I'm gonna drive for a while and come back and check it again. I have put about a couple hundred miles on this engine since the last time I did the oil pan gasket fix. I'm just using a piece of paper towel and see if I can find some fresh oil leak. So far so good. I haven't seen anything. So anyway, I hope you find this video entertaining and educational. So if you want to tackle one of these oil pan gasket replacement, probably gonna take you a couple hours to take care of it. And keep in mind, if this is the only source of transportation you got, make sure you got everything before you start working on it, because once you pull the oil pan off, your car is out of commission until it's fixed. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time on my next video. Later.